Welcome to episode 35. Thanks for listening to season 1. We look forward to seeing you in season 2. Check out what we have for the finale.
Because it's the end of season 1.
Dun dun dun!
We're done with that crap. This is the end of season 1. We don't have time for these transitions. What we call their PMI, personal meeting invite link.
Not private mortgage insurance, but
yes,
personal meeting ID.
It's time for another HiTech Podcast episode, and you are joined by Josh, that's me, as I say every time. I'm one of the hosts. I'm still here. And Will.
That's me.
Illingworth.
Oh.
Who is also a host on the HiTech Podcast.
Not
in case you're new.
Eric, though. He's not a host.
Eric. No, because I accidentally, fine. I accidentally said Eric once. You won't hear it in an episode because we deleted that recording. But we'll have to keep bringing it up.
I'm never going to forget it. It was perfect.
No, it's a thing. It's fine. Whatever. If he's listening to this, I accidentally said your name, Eric, but I know you're not listening to this because I don't think you've ever listened to our podcast, and it's fine. I'm not offended.
Until he listens to this episode and he fires.
Until he listens to this one episode. Yeah, he can do that if he would like. It's probably not a great decision. So on that note, another episode, and actually this is a momentous episode.
Oh my gosh.
This is a crazy episode.
How did we do it?
Because it's the end of season 1.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun. And some of you are listening and go, there's a season? And you would be right to ask that question.
That's how we feel.
Because we did not make that clear, nor to ourselves or you. I think we talked about this in an episode like just last week or the other week or something. I don't know. I don't remember.
I've been mentioning it. I think the last 2 episodes.
We've been mentioning it now, the last like two weeks, that we decided to do seasons. So we're going to take a little break here for a little bit from releasing episodes. And so you won't hear from us for a couple weeks, which I know is going to disappoint you because, what am I going to do without Josh and Will in my life? And
spoiler alert, season 2 does not come with the soundtrack button system that we wish we had. We're just going to keep making the sounds with our mouths.
No, we don't have the soundtrack system for season 2, but we do some cool stuff for season 2. I'm really excited. We got some more guests joining us during the actual episodes. We got some series planned that we're going to be coming out with, some cool stuff. And we got some more of our little high-tech hijinks, where we're going to...
High-tech hijinks.
That sounds like I just invented a segment.
That's a hashtag right there.
That's a hashtag. Okay. So we're going to have some more of that stuff. Just, our fun conversations. But I'm really excited because you and I will have talked about next season. We're going to also jump into some, while we've done some how-tos, we've done the apps, which we'll keep doing every episode. We're also, take on some of those, some hot button topics with education. Some of those topics that might be a little divisive,
and to put
in our response.
To put it this way, it's like we've kind of answered a lot of the hows, maybe some of the whys. We're gonna start asking some of the should we or shouldn't we do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think if you get to should, it's like maybe there's a reason not to. Maybe something's been a naughty little ed tech tool. Selling people's data, stealing it, no problem. We'll see.
Yeah, that's we'll see. 2. Season 2 will share who we think is doing that, and give you some of those opinions. So anyway, I'm excited about that. It's gonna be cool, but we're not done yet. This is our last episode of season 1, so we should probably keep moving on. Before we go any farther, though, with our stuff we got going on, just as we've been mentioning, as Will and I have been getting better at remembering these things, remember to check us out online. The HiTech Podcast has things. We're there. We're in the web. We do that. If you're listening to us through your normal podcast app, things like that, you may not know that we have places you can see us. So first of all, check us out on Twitter if you haven't already, at HiTech Podcast. It's really simple, easy to remember. Go check us out. We release stuff in there. Will does a great job of posting hilarious memes, mainly from Ted Lasso, but who knows? I'm sure we'll find some new ones to throw out there. Not much, though.
Chances are slim.
Check us out and subscribe to us on there. Like us on Twitter. You can follow us on Twitter. That's what it's really called.
Yep.
And check us out there because we want to be doing more stuff through Twitter. But you can also check us out at HiTechPod.us. That's our website where we release the episodes that you hear on your podcast app. But we also release pages that go along with each of those episodes that talk about the app we talk about. And just kind of give you a little bit more explanation of how to use that app and get started with it. And then also, if you have any suggestions, questions, concerns, thoughts,
recipes,
concerns,
we
probably won't listen to as much. But the recipes we will, for sure. At least I'll give it to somebody in our household who cooks. Messages inbox at HiTechPod.us. You can find that on our Twitter and our website as well to get a hold of us. But hit us up there. We'd love to hear from you as we get moving forward. With that said, we have a question.
The most
to start off our last episode, the most important question, apparently. Would you like to ask it?
Literally, why have we waited this long? Oh wait, we've waited this long because it's the most important question. Josh, prepare for controversy.
Here we go.
Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
The question that all people have been waiting for HiTech Podcast to answer.
No,
because it's almost Christmas. It's almost Christmas.
I know houses that are divided over this question, though.
Yeah. Yeah. And a house divided shall not stand.
That's with the Bible, right? Something in there.
Yeah, that's a phrase. So anyway, I don't know who wants to go first. You want to answer this? Because apparently you seem to have strong opinions.
I mean, isn't that just us? We always have. That's just So is Die Hard a Christmas movie? I don't think so. I really don't think it is. I know that there's plenty of people that make a case for it if you do genre studies and literally if you check screen time of snow and Christmas trees and no. It's a shooter looter. It's Bruce Willis being awesome. It is not a Christmas movie.
You ready for my answer?
Oh no.
I have not seen Die Hard.
You got me.
I always remain silent during these conversations because I have never seen any of the Die Hard movies.
That's amazing. That's actually
just
as we're prepping this question, folks, I was like, wait, let's not say our answers to each other. Let's really reveal it. And I'm actually thinking the whole time, he's going to agree with me, but I want him to disagree because it's going to be funnier. And then he gives the truth. And that's the funniest. That's it. So you've just never seen it. None of them. There's
never seen
6 of them.
Yeah, there's 6 Die Hards, right? No, I just never got into it in high school. It was never a movie that I watched. My friend groups didn't watch it. And I don't know. I just never watched it. It didn't come across my group.
Wow. I'm gonna chalk this up as a no then. I think that you are on my side.
Oh, don't put words in my mouth. No. I as I would do in life with most things, even things I don't know the answer to, I passionately make a choice.
Oh,
and
fair.
I'm gonna passionately make a choice to say I think it's a Christmas movie. Screw you.
Oh. There you go. That's it, folks. That's how Josh works.
That's how I work. I haven't seen it, so I can't say. So I'm gonna just side on the side of yes. It's a Christmas movie. Seems holiday-ish. It's got some snow fingers.
Wow. So, how do we create a virtual classroom? Part 2.
Part 2. There's no clean transition. We're done with that crap. This is the end of season 1. We don't have time for these transitions.
This is amazing.
We're going to move on to just the topic. Yeah, so last week we talked about how to create a virtual classroom. And we mainly focused, I think, kind of on the live, what we kind of call the streaming version concept of live virtual classroom, where it's how do you do live video through Zoom or through a tool like we talked about, Twitch can be used for that. Went a little off the wall with that topic, I think, a little bit. And
I think the big point would definitely be that idea of a virtual classroom is maybe virtualizing your classroom experience. Mm-hmm. You're still just going to pretty much teach or do whatever you used to do, but using a tool that streams it, makes it synchronous for people. That can mean, everybody's on Zoom. That can mean most people are in the classroom and some people are not. There's lots of different ways to do that. But this week, we very specifically want to look at a tool. We're so excited for this tool. I can't wait to talk about this tool. But
I'm really pumped.
It's not the only tool that can do this. I mean, and even this is ironic. We're looking forwards. We've recorded things out of time, so it's hard to keep track of some things. If you eventually get to hear about Glenn speaking about Second Life is a tool that a lot of people have used that could create a virtual classroom experience. But like this idea tonight is, how would we create the entire experience virtually? Some people have said, I want to make my class a video game. That's not necessarily the point. We're not trying to even take like Minecraft, for instance, and make Minecraft a classroom or something. Like, there's ways to do that stuff too. But tonight, in this conversation, we're trying to make the point that if you were to recreate your classroom in a virtual experience, how could you deliver that? What would it look like? Is there a way that is that pedagogically beneficial, right? I raised this question, and I raised this point for us doing a two-parter on this because I had faculty members come to me during the pandemic and say to me, like, Will, I'm tired of Zoom where everybody sits in these separate, very clean-cut black boxes. I want people to sit next to each other. I want somebody to turn to their neighbor and like walk over to them and work with them, right? Like, I want people to have the actual experience of being able to do, sure, breakout rooms are helpful, but I want them to be able to like walk over to John and talk to John and then walk away from John and talk to Emily. And I was like, when those faculty members came to me, I was like, yes, there's video games that can do that. And yes, that's kind of their initial experience. It's like, oh, let's create a role playing or a narrative thing. I'm like, that's a little much because it takes a lot of effort to tweak the tools. You as soon as you walk into some of these video games, for instance, Second Life, there are probably ways to control access, but like, if you put your students in that world, it is an open world platform. They could, of course, talk to you and your classmates, but they could also talk to random strangers, and that comes with every single risk you can imagine, right? From the propriety of the content to the safety of people's information and personal safety if they make connections and share their personal information. It's just a crazy opportunity. So I think that there's a lot of value in doing virtual experiences, and I think that the pandemic rightly has us asking, how do we get to be more, if you will, carnational? How do we create physical relationship or like proximal relationship even in a digital platform? Did you have anybody kind of press that matter with you during the pandemic, or did it mostly, oh gosh.
No, I mean, like, I had occasionally some people talking about that issue in Zoom. But like, nobody like came to us in our circumstance. Like, for our context at our institution, like, everybody was doing the best they could. But a lot of our instructors didn't have experience with any of this before any of this stuff started. And so for them, they were just trying to figure Zoom out. Like, so I'm not sure anybody crossed into that space yet. And those who did mainly just complained that the virtual space didn't work. Like, that was really the thing that happened. And to their point, it doesn't normally. And even some of the solutions we'll give, I think, don't perfectly. And really, this episode, I think, really does sit on some of the tool we're going to talk about, because it's very unique. But at the end of the day, there is that question: how do we create this virtual classroom experience beyond just the, like, what are the good practices you do when you're streaming video on Zoom and you're talking and stuff like that? How do you bridge the gap of some of these issues of not being together and being apart, and also trying to help capture some of the some of the, I don't know what the heck you're doing. I hear music on my stuff. But how do you create? I think the biggest issue when it gets to its core is, in a physical space, we have some of that unplanned reality, is kind of how I define it. Like, when we break into groups or we do all this types of stuff, there is, because we're together, we can bump into each other and ask conversations, or you can send students off to do stuff, and there's less hurdles when a student wants to ask another student a question. In Zoom, it's difficult just to like open a Zoom room and let people do that. You know what I mean? Like, they're going to have struggles with that. And so I think there's some techniques that you can do, or tools that you can utilize. And then we're going to show a tool specifically here in this episode that kind of checks off a bunch of boxes in this area for me, that like does something very differently than other ones do. But so I think what we're talking about is, how do we create those virtual spaces in our classrooms? I think is really what I'm coming to. How do we create? We talked about a little bit about this when we talked about third spaces, but I think this is kind of where it gets to, like, how do we create these kind of free spaces that we can allow people to go in and group up in, or talk to each other in? How do we do that well in this virtual space?
I think the answer lies, in the question, like how do we do this? by letting
Wrong.
people,
I'm just joking.
by giving people the agency or the autonomy to do it. Like there's a lot of language you read. Like I want to allow people to go and blah, blah, blah. Like I want kids to talk to each other. I want like what we're thinking, what's happening when we're saying that, or that our heart desire is like, I want, ironically, I want a student to pass a note to another student. I want somebody to turn and look at somebody else. Like that's stuff we can't do in Zoom, right? And we may have over the years been upset with students passing notes or chuckling or texting or whatever, like whatever's happening in the classroom where we just wanted them to focus on us. And then we got stuck in black box world. And it's like, if only I could see them do things again. What I think is at the key of creating successful virtual learning classrooms is providing a tool or an experience where the students have autonomy. They can take the action themselves. So Zoom gets there a little bit, right? Zoom, when you have your settings set correctly, will let the students chat each other. If you use breakout rooms where students can self-select the breakout rooms, like those are two big features, in my opinion, that would let you create like autonomous learning opportunities. So a student could message you whenever they wanted to. A student could message another student whenever they wanted to. That's autonomy. They can choose to use that correctly, effectively, to ask a question about something you said, to take a note, to whatever. They can also say, oh, isn't it funny that Mr. So-and-so's mustache looks curled today? Like, you know what I mean? It can be both of those things, but we need to leave them that autonomy to make that chat opportunity. And like breakout rooms, letting them choose, hey, for 15 minutes, we're going to do group work. We're going to do this in this room, this in this room, this in the other room. Go work on what you want to or what you need to, right? It could be 3 different topics. It could be 3 different parts of the project they're on, whatever it is. Giving them that autonomy takes a step towards that virtual classroom, like recreating what's actually happening in the physical classroom. At any moment in a real classroom, your students can get up and walk out, right? And that they can get up and walk to the window. They could be scooching their chair. That kind of autonomy is not possible necessarily in Zoom. So what we would recommend to go that next step is something like Second Life or virtual reality stuff, or our app today. Like I don't even think we can do as clean a break as we usually do, dude. I think that's just, this is a part of the conversation.
Well, I think before we go too far, because I don't want to make it sound like the app we have is the only solution for this, because I do think there's some stuff you can use for techniques to do this. One, I think there's some key pieces. If you want to create that experience, and especially I think of this from an online class experience, like the place that I think sometimes a lot of people miss is it can kind of feel very sterile in online environments. Where there's not like this collaborative work between students like you would if they're just like walking around campus together or they're meeting together. So a couple of things I would recommend. I think one, yes, making use of like live stuff like Zoom. And when you're using it, you leveraging breakout rooms to create environments for students to be able to go do things in that space. And we're being vague because there's a lot of different ways you could do this. I'll just be honest. There's a ton of ways without actually like talking about your specific circumstance. I'm not going to be able to just give you broad categories for how to do this. So it's one of those things where it's just kind of knowing what tools you want to be a part of the equation. And I think that's one of the things, like some types of rooms that they can go to and they can break out. Zoom can do that. But one of the difficulties with Zoom is you need to make sure you have a whole meeting set up for them to do that.
Right.
The other way I've seen people do this is just making sure that students know how to get a hold of their personal link in Zoom. What we call their PMI, personal meeting invite link.
Not private mortgage insurance, but
yes,
personal meeting ID.
ID. It's just a link. And what you could do is, and we do this, I think education has a lot to learn from remote work. So we do this in our remote work environments. We have our links available to everybody. And then like, hey, so-and-so, the 3 of us will be like, hey, do you have a second to jump on Zoom for 15 minutes so we can talk about this? And one of us will just throw the other 2 our link and we'll all get on Zoom and we'll talk about it. You know what I mean? So like implementing that inside your classroom, kind of having that shared language, I think can create a virtual class experience where students feel like they have places to go to talk. The other thing that I think is very important is having some type of live chatting tool inside the course experience that students can use. Now, Zoom has a feature like that, but we are just now implementing inside our LMS. Canvas has a tool like that. It's just a chat. We are now implementing a chat tool inside all of our online courses. So yes, we have discussions, but those discussions are targeted, and sometimes you can use those discussions like this. You could create a discussion that's just a general chat area, but it's tougher because it's It's not necessarily designed for that type of thing.
No.
So chat though, like in Canvas that we use, we're gonna try to get students to be using that as kind of just a continual thing that they can talk to each other in. And it shows when things I look for in a good chat tool are like, does it show when people are online that they can chat with them? Does it give them the ability, this sounds dumb, but does it give them the ability to throw in emojis and things like that? Because that type of stuff can help kind of create this kind of communal chat experience that we get a lot in remote work. If your LMS doesn't have something like that, there are other tools that do this. Like there's the well-known Slack that we've talked about.
Right.
There's Discord that we've talked about. All of those tools can be a component of that virtual classroom to give you a space for students to have the autonomy to talk to each other and know when each other are online.
Right.
That's the other important part. And that's why discussions usually fail, is because they don't show students that they're online. So a student may send something to another student and not get a response for days.
Right.
That doesn't create that autonomous collaborative experience that you get in a regular classroom.
Right.
And so I think it's a combination of that plus the Zoom stuff we're talking about that can create that. Now, with that package that we've shared, this is where I would transition, because there are tools that have been working on doing that entirely in a singular space.
Well, do you have your thoughts gathered on this, Josh? I don't know if you really have everything gathered together.
I think I do.
Just want to make sure that everything's, and is it like a village of thoughts or like a town of thoughts, maybe?
It's a town of thoughts. The tool that we want to talk about today is Gather.Town, and I'm not going to take credit for this because Will, you're the one who shared this, as you mostly do. So I'll give you my general kind of breakdown thoughts first on Gather.Town.
Go for it.
Okay, it's really new. Okay, they still got a whole bunch of beta stuff going on, and as Will and I already saw, sometimes it doesn't work.
Only sometimes.
Only sometimes. Will and I were just using it earlier today, and we had a few issues where like my mic wasn't working for him, and I had to leave and come back in, and you had some lagging. So anyway, all that to say, it's not perfect, because I'll be honest, this idea that Will and I are talking about has been in video games, but it's not been big in education or like remote work until now. I think COVID kind of shoved this to the forefront of people's minds. But basically, Gather.Town, the easiest way to put it is basically you can set up a virtual space, like a literal virtual space. They have templates. Like Will and I right now are in a fake little office that's here on our screen. We have it in our browser. There's literally cubicles, conference rooms, a lecture hall. There's a little like Zen garden thing. It's very much like the modern day work environment. It's got it going on, but it's basically there's like
even a copier. Okay.
There's a copier in it. There's a water cooler.
Come here. Let's go to the water cooler. Here we go. We're at the water cooler. We're hanging out right now.
Yeah. So, and I said I was going to record this, and I forgot to do it. So
I just did some GIFs. I took a little GIF or two. Yeah.
That's good. Mine apparently.
Because they're going to go on Twitter. They're going to go on the website. You know what I mean? We got to just show people what this is. Go.
Just give me a second. I gotta switch some stuff around here while we're talking on the podcast real quick. There we go. Okay.
And I had tried, folks, just for your knowledge.
So so there's stuff that you can do in this. It's pretty cool. They have actual classroom environments that you can create doing this type of stuff. But where I think this tool is so interesting is that you can literally create a virtual environment with the cues that we use in real life for meeting with each other. So for example, what's really cool about this is I can come into this little meeting area, and there's any like table or like desk area. If you walk your little person into it, and that's the other thing we forgot to mention, you create a little like avatar like you would in a video game. You have your like hair, beard, whatever you want, shirt, pants, that type of stuff. And then you walk around in this tool. But if you go into like a desk or a conference room or a table, it like grays out the rest of the screen and calls it a private area. And so what that means is nobody else can hear me talking unless they come into that private area with me. And that's the other thing that's a selling point about this. So basically, Gather.Town is this virtual, like, I don't know, I call this like old school Super Nintendo video game graphics type of thing with a virtual environment.
It's like 8-bit. It's cool.
And basically you come in here and you can do a lot of cool stuff. And it's pretty sweet. When you walk up to people, you can see each other's little Zoom screens, just like you would on Zoom. You can see each other's camera and talk to each other, which is kind of cool. So, yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. Well, what would be some of the stuff you want to mention about it?
I just love that it's got it's got personality. You know what I mean? Like, there's some elements of it that are customizable. You can create your character, make them interesting, make them like yourself. But as you do stuff, we were messing around and like creating things and going in rooms and playing with it. As I built things, it gave me like a hard hat. Like, I'm a builder, so it gave me a little gift of a hard hat, and other things like that. Like, we're not only going to be able to, if you will, if this thing stays and it develops over time, we're not only going to be able to meet and talk and hang out in this space, but we'll get to live in it a little bit, express ourselves, right? And that's something that I think the faculty I remember that came to me and was like, Will, I need to see these students again. Like, what she was speaking about was the fact that she wanted their personality. She wanted people, right? And yeah, of course, an avatar's hat is not the same thing as your hat, but in the fact that we can't be virtually physically together, like that we don't have holograms here, folks. This is not Star Wars yet. We're waiting for it. Josh and I will be there. It's fine. But in the meantime, this is the next best thing. And it's fun. Like, it really shows a unique way to engage people in a virtual space. So,
yeah. And I think, like, again, where it brings in all the things is that there's chat there. There's ways to signal other people. And it's seamless once you get in the fact that, like, if I walk up to Will's avatar, both our cameras turn on, our mics turn on, and we can talk to each other. And so where I really think I see Gather.Town being helpful in a virtual classroom type of experience is, one, if you wanted to do live sessions where you're going to be breaking out a lot, Gather.Town's kind of easy to do this with. You can share your screen. Everybody can come into the room, so you can send an invite link with a password. So you can easily put this inside your learning management system by linking to it or whatever you'd like to do. All your students can come in and just basically be there. And you can, everybody can come into a little lecture hall room that they have in there. Will and I were testing this. There's this cool little room that you could set up where basically you walk into this like podium and it amplifies your camera and mic over everybody else in the room so that it's clear who's talking, and it kind of pins it to the top. But then you could very easily be like, in this environment, be like, okay, we're going to break out into these rooms. And instead of like in Zoom, where I've got to set up different breakout rooms, assign them to the breakout rooms, they have to sign up. Literally, you can just be like, okay, go to your rooms. And they walk off to their tables in this little room and can collaborate together without having to do anything other than just walking over there. And that's where I think the power in this is. It leverages stuff that we do in real life in a virtual experience that makes sense for people. And it's not perfect, and it's definitely a little quirky at times, as Will is showing right now as he's decorating his cubicle inside there. But it's pretty cool, and I think it has some potential for be able to do that. So I think that's one environment I could see this working. Will, I was just thinking another thing too would be interesting is actually like setting up like basically study hours in an online class. Like, so basically being like, hey, over this time, this Gather.Town room will be open if anybody wants to come in and talk with me as the instructor, or you guys want to, work on your stuff together, come into this Gather.Town room, and people could make the decision how they want to use it. They could literally come in, go to a little cubicle table by themselves and work on stuff, and then when they have a question, come over to you and ask you, just like you would if you're sitting down in the library with your students. And I think that's the really powerful thing about this. It brings back some of that in a virtual environment in a way that I just can't see. I'd have to use 6 different tools to pull off.
Oh yeah.
And that's where I think it's really cool about this. Would you stop but what are you doing? I'm talking right now, guys, and Will is just like putting books down in the middle of our digital room.
Just became a master builder. Okay.
Okay, whatever.
Get on my book train. Get on my book train
fine.
And fall. Oh, I just put a book in a wall. Okay, that's.
I don't think you're a master builder if you did that.
That's hacks and exploits here, folks. Well, and so like Josh has been, while I've been messing around and redecorating, which is ironically quite fun and mildly soothing. Josh has been giving you like the really serious features and functionality of this, but I see this being so relevant for classrooms. I could see this working for a conference. I could see this working for office hours. I could see this working for remote work, right? There's so many layers to how this can work. And as we usually do, right, we want to make sure that there's a sense for you of like how you could use this and what it would look like to do it in your context, your course, your class. It's free up to 25 people. So there's your limitation. There's like just number one. If you've got a big class, it's not likely that you're going to get everybody in here. But if you've got smaller classes, you could actually have your class come into this Gather.Town and work in it. You can make like a unique URL. So this room that we're in is the HiTech Podcast. HiTech Podcast Town, right? You could name a town for your classroom. You could name it for the seminar conference you're working on. If you wanted to, and you were saying, oh, I'm going to do this for a conference. Well, this sounds great, right? You can pay up and you can get them for 500 and 1,000 people, right? It's pretty flexible as to what it can support. But ultimately, why we're saying that, why we're suggesting it, right? So long as you're in the game, if you will, you're in the town, and you're in proximity to one another, you can see and talk to one another. And if you walk away from each other, you can no longer see and hear each other. Yeah. So that's the magic of this tool, right? What happens in Zoom is, so long as everybody's in the same Zoom room, there can be only one speaker. You break rooms out, right? And now there can be more speakers, but only the teacher can control those rooms. Gather.Town makes that same option available to you. You can have rooms, you can separate people up, you can have multiple speakers at once, but people do have that chance to choose. Like if they wanted to walk away from your lecture in the game, in Gather, they actually could just walk away from you lecturing. Where we would say functionally you would get around that, right, is you could use the broadcast feature that Josh mentioned, and while you're teaching, you're in the broadcast position, and everybody does have to listen to you and see you. That sounds like a good idea. But if you're not in like primary teaching mode, you could step away from the platform, stay close to your students, and tell them, all right, here's the instructions for what you're about to do. Break up into groups and go do it. And you would literally watch your students scatter. You know, all these little avatars would break up and have to go into different rooms and find space to talk to each other. It's so cool. You know what I mean? This is Josh and I geeking out about video games at the same time seeing the practical application for classrooms, workshops, seminars. I had faculty come into me during pandemic to trying to say, like, how do I do these poster board sessions that we used to do? How do I do student conferences? How do I, like, here you go. Yes, there's the 25 person limit. Yes, you might have to pay if you have a huge group. Like there's some things to work through, but functionally, we don't have to just say to that question, oh, you can't gather virtually. Yeah, no, you can't do that. We can say yes. It just is, how do you want to get it done? And then, frankly, imagine this. You create a culture of using Gather.Town, and this could be a part of so many different activities that you could do open virtual houses with Gather.Town. Like let people, if you're talking education, right? Let prospective students come tour the virtual campus and get to meet admissions and meet people in their different space. Like, honestly, the ideas are endless. There's a lot you can do with it,
yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot you can do with it, and I recommend checking it out.
You can share screen. We forgot to say that. You can share your screen while you're in here.
Yeah, you can share screen. Yeah, you can share screen. There's apparently it looks like they're just continuing it, which I don't know why, but they have like a virtual whiteboard in there right now that you can like walk up to a literal whiteboard and it opens up a virtual whiteboard. At the end of the day, I think it's just a really cool tool. I think my caution with it is definitely give it a try. It's newer. It's definitely I would have some concerns about stability long term right now. I don't know if it's going to go anywhere or stay here. It's a newer tool.
And accessibility is probably like
accessibility would be a huge issue.
I just don't know. But, like it's possible actually. I'm thinking it through. Like you possibly could code it, but the environment does allow for nearly autonomous movement. So for screen readers and stuff like that, it would have to be able to identify every space that a person could be in to tell them you're in room 1, you're in room 2, you're near cubicle 2. Like it would have to give a lot of audio cues for somebody to be able to navigate it correctly.
there'd be some issues. But I would say this, if this is something that you're looking to be interested in trying it out, it's not that hard if you have a small class to try it out. And I think it's one of those things where give it a try. I would love to implement this in a course just to like create virtual office hours or like study times. I think that would be really cool application of something like Gather.Town.
Yeah.
I want to use it with my remote work team. I'm not gonna lie, I'm definitely taking it to work tomorrow and seeing if the one guy wants to give it a try at some point, just to see how it functions. But
the other Josh,
it's cool. Yeah, the other Josh, I guess. But go check it out. It's Gather.Town is literally the link. Like Will said, they have a free version, 25 people, you can do it up, and then they have several paid up versions for different user amounts. But it took me like 30 seconds to sign up, and they have templates for rooms, which makes it super easy. So this room that Will and I are using
cool.
was just a template. I didn't create this. I just was like, hey, use this work one. And they have a classroom one. So there's some different options that you can create. And then as Will has found, you can add things to the room. Like
I'm just saying, man, you need to make your cubicle cool. My cubicle is awesome.
I guess. I don't even know which one's my cubicle.
I've got plenty. I just took one. Take one. Take what's yours, brother.
Yeah, I know. I think like I'm gonna go next to you. There we go. That's what I'm doing. I'll figure it out later. So on that note, though, check it out. Gather.Town. It's a cool app, and we definitely recommend it.
Love it, love it, love it. Well, we left ourselves a couple minutes here to wrap up this episode and season 1. I am going to try not to get verklempt. I don't know why I get verklempt. This is our thing. It's not like we're going anywhere or whatever, but I know that this has been really impactful for me to do this year. The podcast has taught me so many things. We've made new connections, new friends. Really appreciate our interview series this year. It's been so great to have the different people involved with our interviews, from the first one with Coggle to the most recent one with VoiceThread. We really just love the conversations we've had, and we hope that folks have found this interesting. We have taken time to reflect on this past year, and we're going to take some of the best parts forward and try new things, and maybe even get a little fancy, do some video next year. We'll see. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's just been a lot of fun. Season 1's been awesome. Yeah,
for sure. It's been a great season. Super excited. Hope everybody has a great Christmas and holidays. We will see you guys next year, I believe.
If for any reason people are watching this like in the future, or listening.
Well, not watching. Yeah, if they're watching it, that's super impressive. Where did you find our video?
You think I'd have figured this out by now.
Yeah, it's fine. It's only season 1.
But yes, this episode's coming out a couple weeks before Christmas. We're going to take a break off for 2 or 3 weeks around Christmas of 2021, and then we're starting back up in the first week of January with season 2. We're looking forward to, of course, coming right back at it with new conversations, new apps, new ideas, but guests and lots of friends getting involved. We hope to bring on students, teachers, K-12, higher ed, other instructional designers. Like, we want to really expand this spot because as this has always been as a hobby for Josh and I, this is about the conversation. It's not about the apps. It's about what we do for a living, being a part of what we do for our personal lives as well. So we hope that this is going to work out. We're going to make the best of season 2 as we head forwards. Any other final notes, Josh?
Nope. Other than I decorated my cubicle.
Oh yeah. Oh wait, I gotta jump in there. There's balloons. There's
look at that.
A really old record player, beautiful, some paint. That's it. Golf clap. If I could clap in Gather.Town, I would clap for you. Wait, there's emojis.
Yes, there's emojis.
There we go. I waved.
There you go. Good job.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Okay.
This has been your first season of the HiTech Podcast, where we've looked at, investigated, dug up, tinkered with, poked at, laughed at, joked about the methods that we use to integrate technology into the physical and digital classroom. Today we got to the virtual classroom. We hope that you can have some fun and think big when it comes to what technology can do for you and your students. Until next season, see ya.
See ya.